All right. Welcome. It is April 15th, 2020. We've made it this far, gang, and we are super excited to have Brina Cortez and Mendoza Cruz with us. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, I would be co-facilitating this with Kayla Fu, but she is sick today, and I've been checking on her periodically to be like, do you have the symptoms of COVID? And I'm fingers are crossed, knocking on wood. So she says she wants to come back by Monday. We'll be sending her some positive vibes. With that being said, just going to tell you a little bit about how this is going to go. We're starting right now, going to do a quick overview, jump into the interview, and we've changed it up to where students, you can ask questions the whole time. And then we'll wrap up at 4:55 and end with a reflection. Any comments, questions, concerns about that? We all good?
No, we're all good.
Cool. Awesome. I first want to recognize businesses who previously supported Passion Impact, and we encourage you to support them when you can, if you can, sharing, purchasing, whatever you can do. These are fantastic organizations that really have stepped up to the plate to help out nonprofits, including Passion Impact, as well as many others in the past. So we want to return that favor now in times when they really need the help.
And I can recognize por la mercado also.
Oh yeah, Portland Mercado
Yeah.
is fantastic. Thank you. That is an Hacienda CDC group. My heart is so warm with them. I love them. There's a couple organizations down here. Tecos and New Thai Blues are run by families of students in our programs. So specifically those, definitely want to shout out. So with that being said, I want to go over some meeting expectations just so that everybody knows what to expect here. We show gratitude and respect for everybody in this call, just flat out. We all deserve it too. So I want to make sure that that's a very, very base expectation. You may be muted. You should all be muted. If not, that's okay. I think that there's a few of us in this chat that it's fine. If you hear like a lawnmower going or like a motorcycle in the background, that's probably the time that we should all be muted. Just to make sure that we can have our focus on the people who are speaking. But that being said, you can raise your hand and be unmuted when you have a question. So to raise your hand, you look at the bottom of the panel, it says participants, and you click on participants, and then you move to the right, and it has a little button say raise your hand. So I want to make sure that everybody knows how to do that. I think that there's some seasoned veterans with Zoom in here, so go ahead and raise your hand now just to make sure that we all know that you got it. Adriana probably already knows how to do it too. Great. Brina knew how to do it. Not that you need to, but okay, cool. Awesome. Goes without saying, no nudity, vulgar or demeaning language, or inappropriate sharing your screen will be tolerated. And we do reserve the right as Passion Impact to remove any individual from these programs on those bases. I want to make sure this is a safe place for everyone, but have fun, stay engaged. So with that, let's introduce our two fantastic guests. We have Brina Cortez. She graduated from Portland State University. That's where I met her, actually. Worked at the International School for a little while. Heavily invested in the Portland Ultimate scene, along with a few other things over the past year. Spent at least, was it 6 months or 3 months? I always forgot. I thought it was 6, right? 6 months. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I got that right. In Guatemala, serving an organization. Definitely looking forward to hear more about that. And currently works as a youth coordinator for IRCO, and definitely want to hear about that. So her passion right now, and for as long as I've known her, is community collaboration. Mendoza Cruz, man, both of y'all have different haircuts. This is so cool. I love it. Moved to Portland from Mexico when she was 8. Became engaged in community through high school youth leadership program. Super excited to hear about that. Began working in program coordinator at Hacienda CDC for 4 years now, around 4 years. Is an advocate for Multnomah County under their emergency management department. So that's another role that she holds, as well as a PCC student working towards her associates of arts to become a teacher. She is passionate about teaching and advocating for her community, and just advocating, just being that advocate. And as you will tell soon, she is very much that. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Love to open up the floor. Brina, first, is there anything else that you'd like to add? And then we can go to you, Anna.
For me or Brianna?
Brina, why don't you go first? Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bryna Cortez, and I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. And as Stefan has mentioned, I'm currently working with with IRCO as the youth coordinator and also the census coordinator right now until August, and actually with extension until possibly October as well. Really, I just want to say it's good to meet you and be in this panel with you, Anna. I'm a big fan of Hacienda and also like Portland Mercado too. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Brina. And I also wanted to point out, I'm sorry I forgot to introduce this part, but Brina sits on the Passion Impact board. So it's really exciting to have you here and wearing that hat as well. But Anna, as well, is there anything else that you'd like to say as an introduction?
Well, first of all, my name is Ana, as you know, and I use pronouns as she, hers, ella. I'm bilingual. I've been speaking both languages for, well, English since I moved here about almost 22 years. And Spanish, just my parents never really wanted me to lose that, my heritage. And so, yeah, I'm passionate to be here amongst you all and just be here and share a little bit of some knowledge that I have, and hopefully I can help you all guide your decisions and towards your future, which is basically many paths that we can go about and not just one. So
awesome. Well, thank you all for that. So let's set the stage, right? We're talking to high school students to give them an idea as to what their future holds for them based on their choices, and we're going to be digging into your lives a little bit. So let's start all the way back, even before high school. We haven't done this one yet, so I'm excited. You're in middle school, you just graduated, high school is right around the corner. How are you feeling about high school? What was that like for you? And let's start with you, Anna. Where were you at?
For me, I was scared just because I was really shy, and I really just stuck to the same group of people that I knew, and just knowing that a lot of friends were going to different middle school or high schools and going to the big high schools that we're looking forward to, which is like one of the best ones back then, and I think it still is considered, is Benson. So I don't know, I just never was really thrilled into that whole health sector and whatnot, even though my dad wanted me to be some type of nurse or a doctor. Yeah, not me. I can deal with all that now because of what I do as my other role for Multnomah County, but back then, yeah, it's just, no, it wasn't really much. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to my neighborhood school, and that is that, and see what I can do about it. And just like my dad always taught me, it doesn't matter the school you go to. Is what matters is the passion you have towards your education, and it's you who's gonna really make great of the school, not the school out of you. So I always went with that mentality as well. Just figuring out what I graduated from Madison, so figuring out what Madison was gonna get. What I was gonna get out of Madison instead of me getting some. Yeah.
That reminds me of the quote, John F. Kennedy, like, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Right.
That same kind of mentality, but on a high school basis.
Yeah, and then actually in summer, before I went, I did a summer program where I took some classes in Madison, kind of giving me a little heads up of what the school was gonna be like, and it was math class. I'm a math freak. I love math, but I was actually right out of high school. I started trying to get into more of a math major. But then life happened, and I just decided to let me just still keep loving math and figure something else how to work with that. But yeah, I did this summer program, and it was bilingual too, where I was gonna get more access to math, the math in high school level, and just gonna get a feel of it. That way I don't have a huge impact when I went in. But it really helped.
So it was like an easing in, like a small, like stone stepping into this high school experience.
Right.
So it kind of lessen your nervousness potentially.
Yes.
Cool. So Brina, like, were you also sharing that feeling of being nervous, or was there something else that you were feeling?
Yeah. When I was going into high school, I actually it ended up being like a really um, like crazy time for me because I actually ended up going to like 4 different high schools during like my high school career, and but I always came back to the coast. So I grew up on the Oregon coast, but like I was born and like had family relationships to California, and so I had an issue of like um, yeah, I don't know, just the same similar things that Anna had mentioned. Like I think that was a really good quote that you said with the whole like um, seeing like how you can get more involved in like your school and like not necessarily being concerned about what school you go to kind of thing. But so basically in high school, well, in middle school, I was in the leadership programs there. So like, um, what's it? I'm forgetting what it's called now when you're in this, you're,
Like student leadership, like the
yeah,
whatever
just
that
leadership. I
called.
think it's just leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that in middle school, but I was part of this program that was a little bit smaller. And then, but then once I went to high school, I did also pursue those things. But because I was moving into different high schools, sometimes it was a little harder to join into those things. But I still maintained that. And then because it was a little bit harder for me to be in those leadership positions, joining into a new school, I ended up looking into more club activities. And so this ended up being a really big reason why I was really interested in what Passion Impact was doing, because it really reminded me of a lot of the things that I was trying to do in high school, which was like find different volunteer opportunities and like just get to know what other community organizations were out there outside of school and be able to like make friends that way because I was going to different schools. So getting to like know different people and yeah, and just to also be engaged in things that I wanted to be doing, what like my passions were, and like how I could see more about like learn more about those different opportunities. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. So you went to 4 different schools. You had to like restart almost every single time that you went. On top of the fact that you are this blossoming teenager, you have all these interests. You're trying to find what you're passionate about. So the second question I'll throw out to y'all, Brina, we can start with you. This idea of a passion in high school, what did that even mean to you? Was it actually a concept that you could grasp, or were you still like fumbling around with that idea?
Yeah, I was definitely still fumbling around that idea. I knew that I really enjoyed just like interacting with different folks. Like I just loved meeting people. And so like I really liked doing that type of work. I like feeling like I was doing something. I think often in school I'd feel like sometimes it just didn't feel like I was actually like making an impact on like my world and like or anything. And I felt really like hopeless a lot of the time of like I'm just going to school to like finish that and then go to school again and then or possibly go to school again and then not, and there's just so much like waiting I felt like. And so to have the opportunity to go and do something else, and I am also someone who just like likes trying new things. I think like picking up different skills is always helpful, like even if it's not necessarily the direction that I want to go in. For like I think that I don't know, it just helps learning new things. And then when you are doing different things, you're learning different habits, and those habits add to like later on helping with bigger, um, just bigger things that you might be doing in like your job or something like that. Like all skills are like I feel like are good skills, um, and so yeah, it was cool to learn more about like what is even out there, and then participate in those things, and then be able to bring and that way you're also able to bring new ideas into these different things. So to answer your question, I guess I didn't really know exactly what I was like super passionate about. I knew things that, but that was the perfect opportunity to find out more and more about what things I liked and what things I didn't like. So
Being at 4 different schools, you had to find something new constantly. So it almost like went well with that idea. And like for you, like, did you know what passion was, or did you have like, I mean, obviously you said you liked math. but was that a passion, or was there something else that was underlying?
It kind of was a passion for me. Just, I don't know. For me, I felt like I was weird liking math. 'Cause really, I even now that I work with youth, they don't like math. It's something like, I don't like math, and they make a bold statement about it. But it's just a general concept that you have to know for like everyday life, because like I tell them, if you go to the store and you don't know how to, get your change back, people are gonna basically steal from you. If you don't know how to make a good deal, you're never gonna get much out of, a good deal out of it. So it's just knowing math, and then just in general, like, you have to know what size some things are, and that is basically math evolves around everything, how I see it. But when I started high school, I wasn't really, going back from middle school, I wasn't really involved in a lot of like extracurricular activities or any I don't know, any clubs or anything of that sort. I was just like minding my own business, do school, and then that's it. I was kind of really a little bit restricted because I had to take a school bus to middle school, and so just thinking about that, having to walk a long way, and stuff like that, it wasn't like ideal. Especially my mom wasn't really like for it. But in high school, I had to take public transportation. So my parents, mostly my mom was more of like, all right, well, I guess we can do this type of thing. But no, in my freshman year, I remember that I started trying to get into softball. And that was a sport that I was like, I don't know, I just want to aim for it and see what I can do out of it. But my parents were never really into sports except for like soccer. That's a big main thing of like Latino community. But I wasn't really too much engaged in like, oh, I want to play soccer. It was more of like, I want to try this other sport and just figure it out. And I've never played sports in my life. So that was the first time. And then my coach said I was really good at it, which I'm like, okay, sure, I'll take your word for it. But then during that same time, there came two guys. I remember one kind of like, who looked a little bit like me, brown, with a little bit more of like hair, long hair and stuff like that. And then this other tall white guy with like really long hair as well. And so I'm like, all right, let's see. But I remember that they came based on the two coordinators that help the Latino community within Madison for parents and students. And so I remember Sonny Montes actually worked at Franklin for quite a few years as well. And so Sonny and Maria Elena helped me out and said, hey, we're trying to start this other program. It's a leadership program. I think you will really be good at it and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And I just kind of like went for it, not knowing what it was or what I was going to get out of it. But yeah, those two guys, strangely enough, they sparked the curiosity on me. And I'm like, all right, let's see what you guys have. They started talking to us about it. We're going to be leaders to our middle school students, and we're going to be mentors to them. And so that's kind of just what happened. I don't know. I never really wanted to be that. I never in my mind it never crossed my mind, first of all, of knowing what a leader is. Not even like, being a Latina leader, or just, somebody who's bilingual. And so when I started that, I completely had to decide, do I want to do sports or do I want to help out my community? And that's where I didn't think about it too much. And I said, I don't care. My dad paid $35 already for softball. I'm like, I'm going this way. And so ever since then, I just went back. And then even by the second year, I think I saw like a huge difference. We had a student in middle school who only showed up to school the days we were there as mentors. And so the teacher then came talking to us about, he's only showing up when you guys are here. So I was hoping that you guys can talk to him. How can we make a deal with him about maybe pursuing him to showing up? If he doesn't show up like the rest of the weeks, he can't come to program. I don't know. I just need help with that. And so we did. We made a deal with the student, and it was this boy. I remember it was a boy, and so he just to now reflect on it, I was like, boys don't really like get engaged in so much in that. So I was surprised that he was only showing up for our program. But in that program, it was actually called Oregon Leadership Institute, or OLI. And I think I still have a lot of the shirts left over. I'm like, those are things that I don't want to like throw away. They're so, memorable and things like that. And so I remember that by the end of the year, his grades had improved. His attendance had improved because we had made this deal with him. Like, hey, we look forward to having you here for the rest of the year because we take you for a retreat, at the end of the school year. And so we really want you to do this, but you also have to be committed to school. So we were able to help students like that. And so I did that for 4 years, honestly. And I never, again, did I think about going back to sports or trying a different sport or just, going outside of my norms from like what my engagement was with my community. And if I'm not mistaken, but I did, each year I think about 100 to 100 and almost 150 hours of community service because it was like 2 times a week. So I would meet once for just planning as mentors. And then the second, we would go to the middle school, so that was another 2 hours, so like 4 hours each day, 8 hours each week. So that basically was like everything. And then we also did community service projects with the students. And I remember during those years that I was ever first interviewed by, I think it was Channel 8 or Channel 12, I can't remember. I remember that we did a graffiti cleanup on 72nd and Sandy. There's corner where a movie theater is, so we did that whole block of graffiti because the mentees decided we want to do this cleanup because we want our neighborhood to look a little bit better. So we supported with that, and we recruited we created some funds, and then we also asked for donations and things like that. So during that time, I know they interviewed me and I was like, oh my gosh, freaking out because I couldn't think of the words in Spanish back to English. So I'm like, how do you say this again? But I'm like, oh my god. Now thinking, I don't know if I can find those videos, but I'm pretty sure they're out there.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, just the impact that you get to make with other students, who are not too young from your age, and you can never, you probably think like, they won't listen to me, or who am I? Like, I'm just another teen, like, an older brother and older sister. But essentially that's what we came in. And I actually still talk to a lot of other students who are from there, and have a lot of other connections from like co-mentors from during those 4 years. And I actually I'm still in contact with both mentors that started that program.
Oh my God. And, wow.
Yeah, when I first started working with Hacienda about almost 5 years ago, it's gonna be 5 years in this June. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been there 5 years. Yeah, we did a partnership with Latino Network. And so we did a training because it was Latino Network, Hacienda, and Metro. We were doing a funding program all together. And so they came over to our program site, and then I saw one of the mentors. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's you! Like, it was so nice because I never thought I was gonna run into them again. And the I don't know, just him calling me mija, like I'm his daughter, it felt so warm inside. It's just people who you look up to in some way that, strangely enough, you adapt them as your family. he's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? And so I explained to him, it's like, oh my gosh, like, look at this, like, you know, life, how life works. You were once in that position. I was once in that position, and you know, you were the mentee, and then now look at you, you're doing the exact same thing, just in a different, you know, environment. But I'm like, yeah, it just, I guess it had something to do with the impact that they brought into my life, just wanting to still be back in my community.
You know, it's interesting, in that amazing story you told, I did not hear the word passion, but I felt it the entire time. And that it's very obvious that, like, as a student, and I, you know, in talking to some of the students that are on this call, like, that impact, being able to see it, that visceral feeling of, look what I'm able to do. This is long lasting, and obviously not just long lasting in terms of a school year or 4, like, even after you graduate, those are the things that really can stick with you.
Yeah,
So,
and then I actually went 5 years without, like, being involved with my community. And believe me, I can tell you that I lost, like, I had a dark moment in a way. I felt lost. I honestly did. I felt lost. In 2015, I regained my community aspect and involvement within my community. I've actually am a resident of Hacienda. I've been a resident for 22 years now. I'm going into 22. I've been working for Hacienda now for almost 5 years. But just seeing the whole change of, like, what my community has gone through and what I've gone through, and so much of my, like, evolution as a leader, as many people have told me, it's just, there's some things that I still, like, I can't believe all that. But just recently, they took down a mural that was over here by my community. I'm sad, but you know, it stood there for, like, I don't know, maybe I want to say 17 years. I'm not quite sure. 15,
like, the entirety of
years.
It's been there for as long as you've been there. And
it's been there for almost as long as I have, actually. And I did that mural with a lot of mentees and mentors during high school year. And I remember that was such a proud moment, because we were interviewed by some local newspaper, or, like, there was an article out there. And I remember that, I don't know if I'll try to see if I can look it up, but I'll show you guys, because it was amazing. And just this change. And then every time I passed through that, I was like, yeah, I made that. And even now, my sister, who was also in that program, who has now 2 daughters, and we tell them, like, yeah, that was you, your mom and I who did that. And, like, there's other things here and there, but, you know, it's just making that, even though there's no actual physical structure there anymore of, like, the mural, just having that carry with you, like, for a long time, and having some type of recognition that, like, yeah, I'm making it happen. But after high school, I started kind of, like, working with, I was kind of like, no, because during that time, when I finished high school, like in 2008, who had the Oregon Leadership Institute, or OLI, the whole nonprofit had, like, basically kind of disappeared. And so PSU kind of took over it, but I don't know how it happened that it also kind of disappeared from there. But I started working for PSU for, like, a year and a half. And unfortunately, I stopped working because I'm a DACA student. So back then I didn't have DACA, or there wasn't that program where I can legally work. So based on that, I couldn't work anymore, because then they found I was like, well, you're not really, like, you know, who the person says. So, and so I was sad, and I just had, that's the reason why I stopped working and being involved in my community. And then I just started focusing and just, you know, working where I could, and being able to, like, pay off school out of pocket. And then it went there for 7 years. And I'm like, yeah, I felt lost. Like, and I told my mom, like, I like, there's something missing from my life. Like, there's a piece of me that's not complete, and I don't know what it is. Until 2015, that I started getting involved again with my community, with another leadership program. That's when I feel like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed. And ever since then, I know I cannot stop. That's why during this whole quarantine, I'm like, I have to be involved somewhere else. I have to do something else. I just cannot sit still anymore. And that's where a lot of advocates have seen, like, you know, hey, Anna, you like you said, you know, I carry that passion, because I've learned a lot that if I don't show that passion when I'm talking, you know, I don't have to necessarily say I'm passionate about this or that, but as long as you demonstrate it and you like really engage in what you really love, because that essentially that's what I love. I love being part of my community. I love helping other people. It doesn't matter whether I'm sick or not, or whether I'm gonna get, you know, sick based on doing this or that. Believe me, I've gone through the worst. I've gone through anxiety. I've gone through depression. I've gone through like, you know, mental breakdowns. It's just, you know, but just me being involved with my community and helping and knowing that I can make a difference, that basically helps me kind of like come back to like who I am and get back into that healthy mode and not be like, you know, depressed essentially, and have this anxiety attacks or whatnot. But like, that's what I found out, that like, that's my pill for being good.
Being part of the community is a big thing. And I'm curious for Brina, because a lot of what your story is about is this idea around an impact that you had, the ability to see that impact, to be part of it, and also to feel that love. So Brina, was there a time that you can pinpoint as that first like big impact that you saw, that you were like, yes, I see this now and I got it and I like it and I want to do more of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I ended up, when I was in school, in high school, and also this later on happened in college as well. I ended up, so in high school, being in like the leadership roles and stuff, I ended up finding different ways to like keep, you know, students involved in school and being excited about certain things. And so a lot of that ended up being like creating events that folks can be a part of, or doing all these type of things, and like are making fun like themes for the school, and just trying to get people to just like show up or be engaged with each other. And that later ended up like when I was going to college, I needed to work, to go to school, to, you know, fund school and stuff like that. And I ended up being in a lot of admin roles, and that inherently led into like the kind of volunteer work that I ended up doing, which ended up being a lot of like just like back end projects of projects, so like taking photos and putting out on social media and things like that. And so during that time, I think I really enjoyed just like highlighting other people and getting them to like see kind of like how they're able to like impact other people, and how they're able to like be part of something like greater than themselves. So I kind of really just enjoyed that type of stuff. I like I said, I ended up being in the back end of like in this admin role a lot of the times. And so I really just enjoyed putting together like opportunities for folks to like get together and do this like cool thing, and then see what they can do. So yeah.
I've definitely seen you in those roles where you're the support and you really enjoy being that support, but then seeing people flourish because of that support. And I think that that's what it takes to be a community leader. And it's very obvious in the roles that y'all play. Now, before we jump into your specific jobs of the youth, I also want to make sure that the youth know you can ask questions. So if there are questions that you have even now, please feel free to raise your hands too. I don't want to hog all of the questions, and specifically if you do have something that you're like burning to ask, please raise your hand. So with that, maybe we can jump into like a quick snapshot of a day-to-day in the life of youth work, culturally specific youth work, and how that works specifically in Portland. And Brina, let's start with you on that one. We can bounce back.
Yeah, so right now it's very different than before. Before I work with the IRCO, which stands for the Immigrant Refugee Community Organization. Within that, we have the AYC, which is the Asian Immigrant Youth Council. So basically, it is 10 students from different high schools around Portland that have come together and we meet every Monday in person. And basically we host different like community events. Last year they were able to do this event called #Unison, where it's basically like a culturally a cultural event where we brought community members together to do different things, like for different performances like dances, and also just sharing a little bit more about their culture. Actually, I wasn't part of it. I say we a lot, but I wasn't in this position yet for that. But then later on, they did a play which I was a part of, and that was it was a culturally specific play where it was talking about these two boys, one Nepali and one Vietnamese boy, who had their relationship with their it was talking about their relationship with their mothers essentially, and kind of talking about family dynamic within that. But basically those events represent kind of like what we plan and have conversations around in our AYC meetings. That inherently has looked very different during this pandemic. We have been meeting through Zoom calls, and then just like coming together to hear about what people are experiencing, and trying to gauge how our community is doing, and figuring out ways that we can be helping them with resources in terms of like I see that I got a question. So just finding ways that we can make connections. But what are some of my favorite things as a youth coordinator at IRCO? I really enjoy seeing like the possibilities of collaboration with one another. IRCO is quite big. So within IRCO, being able to see like the different ways to connect our groups, but also with the other community organizations that exist in Portland, and seeing like just different things, like as a person who lives in Portland, you can see a lot of the different relationships that the youth have, and sometimes those aren't like connections that they know these people, or they know, but just knowing familiar places, like knowing the restaurants or the supermarkets that they go to frequently. They might not know those people who own those businesses or anything, and sometimes they might, but aside from that, just like being able to see what like is going on in the community and finding out ways to like connect folks. So once again, in an internal way and an external way as well. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, good question.
Appreciate that. That was Mary's question. Thanks, Mary. Also, if you do have a question, you can write it. I would love to hear it from you, and an introduction would be great too. So Mary, real quick, can we just do an introduction? We'll unmute you, our bouncer, Adriana, if you could unmute Mary, and just give us like hey, I'm Mary, and tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Mary. I go by she and her. I'm one of the VEP members at Passion Impact, and I'm a junior at Franklin High School.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Great question. Let's jump back to Anna. The question was, day in the life, what does it look like to be in youth? And for you, you say youth advocate. Let's talk a little bit about that youth advocacy portion of it. But you're serving not just high school students, right? There's like a whole swath, like a lot more.
Yeah, so my work essentially is as an after-school program coordinator for Hacienda, and I'm based on the properties that Hacienda owns. So Hacienda, a little bit background of Hacienda. Hacienda was funded in 1982. They started off with a simple around 300 units for affordable housing, specifically for Latinos, for the Latino community. But then they saw that there was a bigger need outside just the Latino community, and they decided to expand more. And during that time, my dad was here 5 years prior to me coming to the United States, and so he was already a resident from Hacienda, and that's where I just moved here, and then I had a home at Hacienda essentially. Right now we have over, I don't know exactly the numbers, but we have different properties we have the biggest properties we have is right here located in Northeast Cooley neighborhood, which is our main campus as well. And then we have another apartment complex on 60th and Killingsworth. And then the property I'm at, the one on 60th is called Los Jardines de la Paz. The one that I'm at is on 52nd and Killingsworth. 50th and 52nd and Killingsworth. There's a north end and there's south end. So I'm on the north end, and that's called Villa de Mariposas. We have another property in North Newell, which is St. John's. And then we have our fifth property where we have after school programming in Molalla. And Molalla is really unique to us because it serves specifically to farm workers and their families. So within all these properties, we're based, they have a community room for each of the property locations. And so in my location, I find it that I'm like really, really fortunate and really lucky. I have a whole building to myself. So I don't have to share the building with property management or anything like that. So I can make all the noises I want with the kids, and there's many things happening. But yeah, our program basically serves kindergarten up to high school students. Technically only ninth grade, but being able to take on more than just ninth grade. A lot of students have been coming back, and last year was the first ever record of our high school, one of many high school students that finally we tracked all the way through high school. He's been in the program ever since he was in 7th grade, or wow. 7 years old. So basically like first, second grade up until high school. He was able to, we saw him graduate, and so he's off to college now. And he actually, I keep in touch with him. He actually called me on the weekend. He's like, hey, I need to complete my hours for study abroad because they got sent back really early. And so it's like, he was asking for help. So I'm like, yeah, well, I know you have some neighbors up in there and that you really communicate with them, because he knows them outside of like just the program in general. And so I was telling him like, well, you can always check in on them and just hit me back with like how they're doing, things like that. I think those will be your main students from now. So you can help them with homework. So yeah, help with homework is mainly the most important thing in our program, and then advocating for them in regards to school. You know, if there's an issue going on at school with their teachers or anything like that, making sure that they're getting the support that they need. And most of that time also involves parents. So we do help parents a lot navigate the education system, most importantly, especially our Latino communities and immigrant refugee families. In some of our properties, we do have some Somali parents and families. And so just helping them navigate the school system and being able to know that what their rights are in general. In regards to that, I mean, what the rights are, because I have quite a few cases that have been, their student has always been the troublemaker and whatnot, because it could end up being that they end up defending another student, and because they defended another student, they are now accused of being the problematic kid, and so that sticks with them for quite a few years. And so I'm trying to advocate into the whole, like, we got to see the different aspects and not just see one aspect of this student's lives. You know, things happen, and we got to make sure that everybody's being treated, either being punished the same way or being treated equally the same way, in regards to, you know, we're advocating for you, but we're not advocating for this person. And so that has been my case in most of the time. I have a family in particular. This student has a lot of anger issues, can't contain his anger, but I see him every day, basically Monday to Friday, and I see that he's this nice, gentle boy, and right now he's only in 4th grade. But about last year, he was getting a lot of, like, you know, phone calls to mom, he's hit again, or he's making this or that, and most of the time it was because he was defending someone. But teachers didn't see it that way. And so mom was really frustrated. It's just me supporting parents and being able to help them navigate, like, hey, you know what? I need you to make a report of this happening. So that way this happens again, then we go back and we deal with it, because now we have notes and we have a kind of timeline of what's been happening. And especially if teachers aren't having a change, or there's no change happening within the teachers or the classrooms, then this is our next step. And this is based on the fact that I've taken a lot of leadership classes. And not only that, but I've also learned how to navigate the school system on my own, and being able to, like, you know, help out the students and the families. And in so many cases, I can say I know what it is to advocate for yourself. And now that you have someone, like, you know, I'm there for you and you don't have to do this on your own, then because I've went through it, you know, I went through it not only for myself, but for my family, and being able to, you know, I ever since middle school, I remember, I think starting in 6th grade, I started being I started translating for my parents. And so I became their personal translators, which I only got paid by a housing and school only. Like, your job is to help us translate. But now I do it kind of professionally. I get paid for it, but you know, that's part of my job. And you know, they feel comfortable, because a lot of the times, I know this, I mean, I've been in the same neighborhood for over 20 years. And so a lot of the neighbors or the parents that I work now are either family members of students or siblings that they went to school with me, and have younger siblings, or now it's their children, you know. And so now I'm able to connect even way better with them. And so just having that impact of but
being
yeah,
the advocate for those students after having experienced that.
After having an experience. And I think a lot of the time, like, not having that experience does help, because you're coming in neutral of like what's going on, but also having, I think for me at least, I've seen it that it has helped me so much. It has helped me so much, because I was able to connect with my parents right away. I didn't have to have that transition of like 6-month period of like getting to know my families and getting to know their parents and things like that, and just getting to know who they are. I just already knew them from outside. And a lot of the families is like, oh my God, yeah, I remember when you were just this little girl and whatnot, and I try to like bring all back memories. So I'm like, okay, we need to stop it with the shaming stories or whatnot. I'm like, let's not do that right now. But it's having that connection with them and just being vulnerable with them. I mean, honestly, even with my middle schoolers, I've told them, like, you know, I'm open about what's going on. I've been able to tell them, like, hey, I'm going to school. When I signed up for school about 2 years ago, when I finally decided I need to go back to school. I told them, like, hey, guess what? I have big news for you all. And so they were like, okay, what is it? And I'm like, so I just signed up for school, and I got my official acceptance letter from PCC, and they're like, oh yeah, they're like making their party.
That's awesome.
Having that, being vulnerable with people like that, and being able to like have them do that, it just, you know, it gives you a lot. It gives you a lot to work with. And just being there, knowing that I am, you know, vulnerable, like they're struggling with school. They're like, they don't want to do their homework, and how I sometimes do them, like, oh my gosh, I have this essay, it's due this week and I haven't started. And so they see that, you know, like, oh, you're also struggling. Okay, it's not only us, you know, it's everybody. And it doesn't matter the age, you know, it just, in reality, we're all struggling. And that's the same thing I was telling them, like, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, I think I have to come up, you know, be clean with you guys and be, you know, vulnerable at some point. And like, I told them, like, I have anxiety. I actually have anxiety problems, and it's taking time from my work to deal with that. But I was also like telling them, this is the reason why I've been out. This is the reason why I sometimes can't come and see you, because my anxiety just gets so bad. And they were there with me during this whole time, and then just being able to tell me, like, Anna, you need time off. Or even them telling me, like, you know what, you're gonna take this whole, I can't remember, it was a week in November where I think it was only one day of that week that I was gonna go into program, because I had so many things that came up in that same week. And then a second grader told me, he's like, Anna, I think the best thing is that you take Friday off. Well,
Oh,
like,
yes.
what? I'm like, are you sure?
That's
Are
the
you sure? Are
best.
you guys okay with this? They're like,
So-
yeah, it's Friday anyways. We don't have homework. You're gonna be tired from all your meetings and your trainings, and then you got that. And it's like, you should just take another day off. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, that's fine. I'm like, whatever you say, boss. I'm here working for you. And I think, being able to like give them that voice, that if they say, take a day off, I'm taking a day off. I'm probably just taking a day off at the office or whatnot, but just having them, because that's part of our funding too. Part of our funding says that, especially for middle schoolers, give them a voice. Tell them exactly what you want, what they want, to do. And that's what I go based on. Like, like I remind them, this is not my program. Because if it was my program, I would do this, and that. It's your program. I'm here for you guys. If you guys are not here, I don't come in. So it's just
Or
that reminder.
if they tell you to take Friday off, you don't come in either.
Yes,
And
I
let
follow
that be,
their instructions.
yeah, and let that be like a lesson to all youth, right? That like, it's okay to speak up in these scenarios, especially when you see something, whether it is an adult or somebody else that's your age, like to be there for them and advocate for them as well.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're a little over time. There was a final question, and what I'll do, Mary, maybe y'all can speak offline. I do want to be respectful of everybody's time here. The last thing real quick that I wanted to ask is, with all, and this, try and bring it into like one quick sentence. What are you going to do moving forward? What are you going to do moving forward? Just one quick sentence. What are you going to do moving forward?
For me, is maintaining my engagement in my community. I can answer that question really fast. When I wasn't doing the community, I felt lost. That's how I felt. I just felt lost. I felt like a dark cloud on top of me that I couldn't get it out. That's why I have more shine with me, metaphorically. But yeah, being involved and doing what you really love and what you're passionate about. And I think it kind of like shows off, and, being engaged in my community, that's what I'm passionate about. But
Awesome.
just keep doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. And Brina, for you, what are you going to do moving forward?
Yeah, moving forward, I feel very similarly, staying connected with my community, particularly with youth, like just like trying in every way to show them that their voice like really matters, and how much like they can make an impact, and yeah, and just being able to have them stay engaged and realize like the importance of their experiences, and how they can also inspire others by doing that too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so weird to think that we're talking to youth about working for youth and with youth, but it is an absolutely plausible direction that you could go as a completely viable profession. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen real quick. We're going to talk about just wrapping this up. For everybody on the call, go ahead and throw some things out there. What did you learn from this interview that you're excited about? How can you use this information moving forward? And then how can Passion Impact improve this experience for you? If you do have a joke, either Anna or Brina, go for it. We love jokes. We love to hear jokes. It doesn't have to be in English either. That's always fun too. So if you have one, now's a great moment for it.
I'm horrible at remembering jokes, but there is one. Why did that tamal go to the hospital?
I don't know.
Because he was tamalito, like tamalito with the short. I don't know. I read it offline, so like that's the only thing that I can remember. And then I know a lot of like Pito jokes, like, but they're really rude, so I wouldn't share them.
Oh my gosh, thank you for that. I'm gonna open up our chat. I don't know where the chat went. Can anybody read the chat right now?
Yeah, the question was from Mary, and it said, I learned that being involved in your community can not only benefit yourself, but also the ones around you.
Awesome. Nice, Mary. Thank you. Danya, Carly, anything from y'all? I can't find it. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. Cool.
I was gonna say, like, based off of that, and I kind of thought about it too when Anna was talking earlier, but just like the impact that like personal experience have, I think like especially with like within for like BIPOC folks or like being youth leaders, so BIPOC being like Black, Indigenous, and people of color, like I think the impact of being youth leaders is so important because like Anna shared, like just your own lived experiences are so valuable in helping just like be there for other folks. I think so. I always think that that's like an important thing to realize when talking about like youth advocacy and involvement.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brina, for that.
And then if there's one thing that I've learned, even as an adult, even during my time here at Hacienda, is that, you know, your passion can lead you to like, I'm a big crier. I cry a lot, and especially when I'm passionate about things, I like, you know, start bawling. And I remember one time I excuse myself for crying, and this other leader said like, never excuse yourself for being too passionate. And I think that's one of the things too, as women we're considered too passionate, but I just want to say, you know what, screw them. I'm sorry, but you know, if you're not passionate about something, then you're never going to move forward with what you really want. And I think, you know, just being acceptance of your passion that can lead you to being vulnerable. Just, you know, keep at it. If you're a crier like me, go for it. Don't make that stop you. And if I ever meet up with you guys, any of y'all, and start apologizing, I'm gonna come at you and say, don't do it, because it's, you know, that's what we need. We need more passion out there, and I think we're lacking a lot of that, especially with what's happening in our environment right now. Is, you know, just be passionate and be vulnerable and be, you know, you are a strong chingona, like I say. Chingona is, you know, is that you're a badass. That's the word that I'm going for now. You know, anybody can be a chingona or a chingon. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's a new word that I've learned today, and I will keep that.
Yeah.
We have two more comments here. Mary also said, I can use this info moving forward, letting ones younger than me acknowledge they also have a voice and that our future is in our youth. Absolutely. Adriana learned we can have an impact, big or small, if we try to connect with our community, even if it's that's on a single person showing up to more school days.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's, in closing here, just want to talk about the upcoming events for students. Every Monday is parent support, helping translate passion impact promotional items to Spanish, Cantonese, Russian, and Vietnamese. So if you can make that 1 to 2:30, we have a lovely volunteer host, Mary Holmes. And so far, Mary, Danya, who are on this call now, have both been there and kicked butt. So thanks, y'all. In addition to that, on Tuesdays, article discussions from 12 to 1 for students to engage intellectually and talk about some social justice issues, volunteering issues, other education issues. That's led by Adriana. On Wednesdays from 12 to 1, we have Kayla and Christina hosting a workout session, which was today, and I am tired. My legs hurt. So way to go on that one. Keep that up. That's awesome. Next Monday, we have our upcoming informational interview with Elaine, Hyung, and Lindsay Higa. From 4 to 5. They are both engineers, one in civil engineering and the other in, it's a form of civil engineering. It's water waste. Really interesting processes on that one. So make sure to sign up for that. And then on Thursdays, we have the Connectors team from 3 to 4:30, working on our newsletters, interviews, blogs, vlogs, and more. Don't forget about Fridays. Mary and Alan are hosting games. So if you're interested in any of those, at the top here, passionaimpact.org/teleprogramming to sign up. And if you want to submit or sign up for our newsletter, at the bottom there, passionaimpact.org/subscribe. With that, Brina, Anna, thank you so much for your time. You are fantastic people. Keep inspiring youth. Keep being passionate. We love you. We're sending all love. If you, Adriana's unmuted us all. Let's give you I say yippee, so let's yippee it up.
Yippee!
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. Take care.